Title of this video was a little clickbaity. That being the case, I'm going to come right out and say it. My secret method to go faster on a long race is simply not to stop at the aid stations. This is what I did at the 2024 Finland Gravel Midnight Sun Race, which is a 110-mile or 180 kilometer gravel race in Lahti, Finland. Strava has a great tool on its flyby pages, which shows how far another rider is in front or behind you. I'm going to compare another rider to me. He finished less than a minute faster than me over the whole course. He stopped at all 5 aid stations, whereas I only stopped at 1. This video tries to answer a question. How much time would the other rider have put into me if he had not stopped at the aid stations, all things being equal? The green curve shows the relative gap between me and the other rider. Over the first 17 miles of the race, the other rider put 4 minutes into me. This is pretty common on gravel races. People go out very fast, whereas I held back and tried to surf wheels. But it's obvious that the other rider is stronger than me, probably by quite a bit. The other guy stopped at aid station 1. In doing that, he lost the wheels of a fast group, whereas I was sitting in with the group. So we caught the other rider, and I rode with him until mile 32. I'm not a good climber, so I intentionally let the group go until aid station 2, but I didn't stop at the aid station. After aid station 2, I was 2 minutes ahead of the other rider. A big group seemed to stop at aid station 2, and I was riding solo. They caught me quickly, but I was able to catch on and surf their wheels until aid station number 3. The other rider stopped, but I did not, and I was 4 minutes ahead. So this time it took the other rider 15 miles to catch me again. Both of us stopped at aid station 4, but I got out of there 2 minutes faster than him. The other rider caught me for a third time around mile 85. At mile 90, I started working with a strong rider from Colorado, and for the next 10 miles, we put a gap into the other rider. This gap grew to 7 minutes since the other guy stopped at aid station number 5, and we didn't. Unfortunately, when the course got really hilly for the last 10 miles, I bonked and my speed dropped precipitously. The other rider caught me within sight of the finish line and ended up beating me by 50 seconds. Okay, so back to the original question. What I wanted to know is how much time the other rider lost at the aid stations relative to me. So I chopped up the relative gap between us into 6 segments, split apart at the aid stations. By simply sliding the segments up in PowerPoint, I can answer that question of how much faster the other rider would have gone had he not stopped at the aid stations. In this case, the answer was 7 minutes and 40 seconds. This would have moved the other rider up about 10 spots, from 145th to 135th. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but note that there were about 60 pro riders in this field. So in an amateur race, if you subtract 60 pros out of there, moving up 6 spots is a pretty big deal. And that's about 2% faster in terms of speed. I like to convert speed differences into power differences. So I went to the GRVL calculator, which assumes road cycling on flat course. We did about 16 miles per hour on this hilly gravel course. I assumed that this was about equivalent to 19 miles per hour on a paved road to plug into the GRVL calculator. So assuming an average rider, I'm much above average, but I just used GRVL's standard parameters. Average size rider would have to sustain 158 watts to sustain 19 miles per hour. So a 2% speed increase would be about 19.4 miles per hour. The average rider would have to apply 167 watts to maintain the higher speed. So more or less, not stopping at aid stations would be the equivalent of increasing your power by 10 watts. This is not a number that's going to apply on every course. This assumes a flatter course versus hilly, but it's a number. It's a starting point. 10 watts might not seem like a lot, or 2% might not seem like a lot, but people will go to great lengths to get an extra 10 watts. I know I would. So if you don't want to stop at aid stations, you have to be able to do it. And that means a certain mental fitness as well as core strength and the ability to hold a position without pain. And I would say to that proper hydration, and especially proper nutrition along the ride, does help with reducing like backaches and whatnot. Now B, you have to carry enough food and water to skip the aid stations. And on a really hilly course, carrying a lot of water could make you slower. So for instance, if your course has a big hill in the early stage when you're carrying the heaviest amount of water, you might want to reduce your water for this segment and stop at the first aid station and pass the big hill just for water. So specifically, you could carry a hydration backpack and a bunch of empty bottles up the hill and then quickly fill the bottles at the aid station, probably in about 2 minutes. However, carrying your own food for the whole race makes huge sense. Personally, I make my own energy gel, and I put it into 3.5 ounce plastic containers, and I store them as many as I can in a top tube bag. The extra weight is negligible, and I doubt there's much of an aero penalty from the top tube bag since it's actually fairly aero. I try to eat 1 container per hour, which is roughly equivalent to 2 commercial gels. So anyway, I hope you got some value out of this. I thought it was pretty interesting to try to attach numbers to it. The pros are already doing it. Pros stop absolutely as little as they can, and there's a big reason for it. Losing a few minutes, especially when you're sitting into a big group, that's a big. You're going to lose a lot of spots in a race. So, as an average rider, I thought it would be useful just to see how much improvement you could get from not stopping at aid stations. So the answer is about 2% speed, or plus or minus about 10 watts. Thanks, and let me know in the comments what you think of this. Good, bad, or ugly.